Well, well, well. Just when you thought 2025 couldn't get any spicier, we've got Venezuelan F-16s playing chicken with US Navy destroyers in the Caribbean, like it's some sort of Top Gun sequel nobody asked for. Buckle up, because this isn't your typical diplomatic spat over trade tariffs. This is a full-blown telenovela with missiles, drug cartels, and bounties that would make Dog the Bounty Hunter jealous. Welcome back to The Grid. I'm your host, Jet Royce, and buckle up, grab your popcorn, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and let's break down this Caribbean chaos that has everyone from Washington to Caracas losing their minds. Before we dive into the military madness, let's quickly break down why these two countries are even fighting in the first place. Because trust me, it's wilder than you think. Venezuela's president, Nicolás Maduro, has been running his country since 2013, and the US basically thinks he's a dictator who stole elections and runs a drug cartel on the side. Meanwhile, Maduro thinks the US is trying to overthrow him and steal Venezuela's oil. Both sides are probably a little right and a lot dramatic. It all started going downhill when Venezuela's economy completely collapsed. We're talking hyperinflation so bad that people needed wheelbarrows full of cash to buy groceries. Over 7 million Venezuelans have fled their country. That's like the entire population of Virginia, just packing up and leaving. Many of these refugees ended up in the US, creating a massive immigration issue that Trump campaigned on. Then came the July 2024 election drama. Maduro claimed he won with 51% of the vote, but the opposition says they have proof he actually lost by a landslide, 67% to 30%. The opposition leader, Edmundo Gonzalez, had to flee to Spain because staying in Venezuela while claiming to be the real president is apparently not great for your health. But here's where it gets spicy. Trump believes Maduro is running a massive drug operation. The US claims Venezuela's military and government officials are basically one giant cartel, called Cartel de los Soles, that's flooding America with cocaine and fentanyl. They also say Maduro is backing the Tren de Aragua gang, which has spread across Latin America and into US cities. So when Trump came back to office in 2025, he basically said enough is enough, and started treating Venezuela like a hostile nation harboring drug cartels, rather than just a problematic neighbor. Hence the warships, the $50 million bounty, and the shoot first, ask questions later approach we're seeing now. Let's set the scene. It's September 2025, and the Caribbean is looking less like a vacation destination and more like a military parking lot. The US has deployed 8 warships, 1 nuclear submarine, and 4,000 military personnel to Venezuela's doorstep. That's more American firepower than most 4th of July celebrations. Meanwhile, Venezuela's President Nicolás Maduro is mobilizing his militia like he's preparing for the world's most expensive game of capture the flag. The tension reached its peak on September 2nd, when Trump announced, in his characteristically subtle way, that the US military had just literally shot out a boat. Not metaphorically shot out, literally. The strike killed 11 people aboard what the US claimed was a drug smuggling vessel linked to the notorious Tren de Aragua gang. Trump's recent warning statements read like a script from an action movie. When asked what would happen if Venezuelan jets approached US ships again, Trump didn't mince words. If they do put us in a dangerous position, they'll be shot down. Standing beside a general in the Oval Office, he told the military commander he could do anything he wanted if the situation escalated. When Venezuelan F-16s buzzed the USS Jason Dunham, Trump's response was equally theatrical. I would say they're gonna be in trouble. If they fly in a dangerous position, I would say you or your captains can make the decision as to what they want to do. It's like giving your kids permission to fight back on the playground, except the playground has nuclear submarines. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, or should I say, the $50 million bounty on Maduro's head. That's right, The US has basically put a price tag on the Venezuelan president that exceeds the GDP of some small countries. Attorney General Pam Bondi doubled the previous $25 million reward, claiming Maduro is one of the world's largest narco-traffickers. The internet, predictably, had a field day with this. Social media users mockingly pointed out, "He's in Venezuela. I take Zelle, Venmo, Cash App, and Apple Pay." Because apparently, finding the sitting president in his own country requires a bounty that could buy several Miami mansions. But wait, it gets better. On September 5th, two Venezuelan F-16 fighter jets decided to buzz the USS Jason Dunham, like they were auditioning for a Fast and Furious movie. The Pentagon, clearly not amused by this aerial performance, called it a highly provocative move. Here's the kicker. These Venezuelan F-16s are relics from the 1980s, when Venezuela and the US were still friends. It's like watching your ex show up to your wedding in the car you bought them. Technically impressive, but mostly just awkward. The jets are so old, they're practically museum pieces. Yet somehow, they're still operational enough to play international intimidation games. Now, for the serious question everyone's asking. Could this actually turn into a full-scale military conflict? The short answer is technically yes, but it would be the most one-sided fight since Mike Tyson versus a kindergartner. According to global firepower rankings, the US is the world's #1 military power, while Venezuela ranks 50th out of 145 countries. The numbers are absolutely staggering. Air power. The US has 13,043 combat aircraft, compared to Venezuela's measly 229. That's like bringing a paper airplane to an air show. Naval forces. America boasts 440 warships, while Venezuela has just 34. Even more embarrassing, Venezuela's navy is mostly coastal patrol boats that probably couldn't survive a strong Caribbean storm, let alone a fight with US destroyers. Personnel. The US fields 1,328,000 active troops versus Venezuela's 109,000. America's reserves alone, 799,500, are 7 times larger than Venezuela's entire active military. Budget reality check. The US defense budget is $895 billion, compared to Venezuela's $4.1 billion. That means America spends more on military toilet paper than Venezuela spends on its entire armed forces. But here's where Maduro gets creative. He's claiming to mobilize over 8 million militia members through his National Bolivarian Militia. That sounds impressive until you realize these are mostly civilians with basic training, not actual soldiers. It's like organizing the world's largest game of paintball, except with real bullets. Maduro has deployed 15,751 popular defense bases and 5,336 communal militia units across the country. While that might slow down an invasion, it's essentially asking your neighborhood watch to fight Navy SEALs. What would a real war actually look like? Military experts paint a pretty clear picture of how this would unfold. And, spoiler alert, it's not great for Venezuela. Phase 1. The 48-hour knockout. According to defense analysts, the US would likely start with Tomahawk cruise missile strikes, targeting Venezuela's air defense systems, military bases, and command centers. Venezuela's Russian-made air defenses might shoot down a few missiles, but they'd be overwhelmed within hours. The US Navy's destroyers alone carry enough Tomahawk missiles to level every major military installation in Venezuela. Each ship can launch missiles with a 1,000-plus mile range, meaning they could strike Caracas while having coffee in international waters. Phase 2. Air superiority, aka game over. With Venezuela's air defenses neutralized, US F-35 stealth fighters, now 10 of which are deployed to Puerto Rico, would establish complete air dominance. Venezuela's aging F-16s from the 1980s would be sitting ducks against America's most advanced stealth fighters. As one military analyst put it, Trying to fight F-35s with 40-year-old F-16 is like bringing a musket to a laser fight. Phase 3. The ground game nobody wants. Here's where things get complicated. While the US could easily destroy Venezuela's military, actually occupying the country would be a nightmare. Venezuela has challenging geography, with mountains, jungles, and urban areas perfect for guerrilla warfare. Military experts estimate the US would need 170,000 plus troops for a full invasion, similar to the Iraq War at its peak. That's a massive commitment for a country that poses zero actual threat to American security. The US claims Maduro heads something called the Cartel de los Soles. The name comes from the some insignias on Venezuelan military uniforms, which sounds less like a terrifying drug cartel and more like a vacation resort theme. Washington alleges this cartel connects Maduro to both the Mexican Sinaloa cartel and the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. Tren de Aragua, meanwhile, started as a prison gang and has apparently become Trump's favorite boogeyman. The gang allegedly spreads throughout Latin America faster than a TikTok dance trend, though experts suggest its actual reach might be more hype than reality. Despite all the bluster and military posturing, several factors make an actual war extremely unlikely. 1. Geography is Venezuela's best friend. Venezuela's terrain includes mountains, jungles, and urban areas that would make occupation incredibly difficult. As one expert noted, it's irrational to believe that a force of 4,500 could invade a country with challenging geography. 2. No clear strategic benefit. Unlike oil-rich Iraq, Venezuela doesn't offer enough strategic value to justify a massive military intervention. The US already gets most of what it wants through sanctions and pressure. 3. Regional backlash. A US invasion would unite Latin America against Washington, potentially pushing more countries toward China and Russia. That's the opposite of what America wants. 4. The Russia factor. Venezuela's military equipment comes from Russia, with Russian technicians helping maintain it. Attacking Russian-built systems risks escalating tensions with Moscow, at a time when Trump is trying to negotiate over Ukraine. In what might be the most 2025 thing ever, Trump announced this military operation via Truth Social, complete with black and white drone footage that looks like it was filmed for a Michael Bay movie. Venezuela's communications minister immediately cried fake news, claiming the video was AI generated and looked cartoonish. Because nothing says international diplomacy like arguing about the authenticity of social media posts showing people being blown up. The international community is watching this Caribbean soap opera with the kind of morbid fascination usually reserved for reality TV shows. The EU, Canada, and various Latin American countries have imposed their own sanctions on Venezuela, creating a sanctions web so complex it probably needs its own flowchart. Meanwhile, China is quietly building monuments in Caracas and strengthening ties with Maduro, because apparently nothing says international relations like playing hard to get while two other countries threaten to blow each other up. This Caribbean standoff reads like a Tom Clancy novel written by the writers of Arrested Development. You've got aging F-16s, social media warfare, AI conspiracy theories, bounties that would make the Wild West jealous, and enough military hardware to conquer a small planet. The real tragedy is that behind all the bluster and bravado, real people are suffering. Venezuela's economy is in shambles. Millions have fled their homeland, and now they're watching their country become a geopolitical football. Could this turn into actual war? Technically, yes, but it would be over so fast it wouldn't qualify as a war. More like an extremely expensive demolition project. The US could eliminate Venezuela's military in 48 to 72 hours. But then what? Occupying Venezuela would be a nightmare that makes Iraq look like a weekend getaway. Will it actually happen? Probably not. Both sides benefit more from this theatrical standoff than actual fighting. Trump gets to look tough on drugs and immigration, while Maduro gets to play the victim of American imperialism. It's political theater with very real, very expensive props. Whether this ends in actual conflict, diplomatic resolution, or just more increasingly expensive Twitter beef remains to be seen. One thing's for sure, the Caribbean has never been this interesting. And that's not necessarily a good thing. And that's a wrap on today's episode of The Grid. What do you think? Is this all just political theater, or are we actually heading towards something bigger? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Smash that like button if this breakdown helped you understand this crazy situation. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that are shaping our world. I'm Jet Royce, and I'll see you in the next one. Disclaimer: no Venezuelan speedboats were harmed in the making of this video. Actually, wait, scratch that. At least one definitely was. And if you're thinking of collecting that $50 million bounty on Maduro, remember, he's literally the president of his own country. Good luck with that GPS location.